Hello and welcome to Warcraft Daily for today, the 29th of August 2013. So in today's news we have a few things. We have the Stormwind, the supposed Stormwind destroyed thing, a whole bunch of interviews on like new models, game engine, that kind of thing, and some cool blue posts about like story, old content, stuff like that. It should be pretty good. Today also marks the start of me doing lore. I should have a Lei Shen video out today, probably in a few hours after this. So let's get into the news. The first thing is Stormwind. Now, it's actually pretty cool. So you may remember a few weeks ago, we saw these screenshots of Stormwind all covered in like Sha ruin and stuff. And well, it turns out that's a part of a quest. So one of the quests from the Timeless Isles is you bring this Hourglass of Time into the Siege of Orgrimmar. And one of the stages of the quest gives you a vision of what happens if Garrosh wins. And as you can see in the video, well, it's not good for us. Pretty much every Alliance or Horde hero main character is dead, impaled, and the city's in ruins, so yeah, let's not let Garrosh win, okay? Alright, now let's move on to interviews. So the first thing was about new models, and they said that unfortunately they're not ready to show them yet, and that they're sort of worried that, you know, changing models, it risks causing players to be less attached to their character, which is a big risk in an MMO, and also it's never been done successfully before, so it's quite a problem. They specifically said that I think about 6 years ago, they did like some minor change to one of the animations on a human model, and people got really pissed off at it, which, honestly, that just seems absurd in my head, but whatever. There's been some rumors and stuff saying that some of the new models wouldn't actually be the launch of the next expansion, and they'd come out in content patches. That seems kind of weird to me, I don't know. I think if they do it, they would ideally want to have it all done in the same expansion all in one wave. I believe we saw recently, I think one of the developers said that they're about 25% done, so there definitely must be a lot of work. You have to remember, not only do they have to make the new model, but they have to make all the animation rigs for it, and also they need to make sure that it interacts with pretty much every piece of armor correctly, which is quite a big problem. I'd imagine that doing new models would also give them an opportunity to stop like armor clipping through parts of your model and stuff like that, so I think when it does get done eventually, it'll be pretty good. Now the next thing is the game engine. So they said that they've started adding more things on the high end, graphics and spec wise. That's good, because really, like, I know it doesn't take a lot to run WoW, but honestly, if you're running like a 7-year-old computer, just get a new one. Come on, they're not that expensive. Ugh, anyway, it's sort of annoying. I think they are held back a little bit by this. It's an idea that perhaps the bottom, like, 5% of people are, you know, it's worth holding the game back just for them. I don't know. Interesting. Anyway, they also said that switching engines doesn't make a lot of sense, and that the WoW engine is optimized for doing some specific things that they need, and having to deal with dynamic lighting and stuff like that would involve reauthoring a whole bunch of textures. It's still, you know, it's kind of funny in my head that I'm talking about like dynamic lighting as if it's like sort of a special fancy thing. It's just kind of weird, but hey, whatever. I guess it is a 13-year-old engine, we can cut it some slack. And they also said that they are able to down level you to play with friends, but they don't have any announcements yet, and it seems like they don't really have a reward structure or anything really to just sort of go around it. But hey, that would be nice, being able to down level and just chill out with your friends leveling. That'd be pretty cool. Now, the next thing we have is blue posts. So the first thing's about story, and there was a lot of talk in story which prompted a massive blue post that I saw yesterday. And basically, they said that things like the mop story are made far in advance, and that only really small tweaks can be made in the way. For example, they knew the Garrosh would be the end boss of the expansion in 2011, and yeah, so things are generally pretty set in stone, so when we're like giving them feedback and stuff like that, it's probably going to be incorporated 1 to 2 years down the line. Now they also seem quite open to have more community input, saying that they would proportionally be booking more interviews with story people like Dave Kosak and Chris Metz, and I think it's very important for them to focus on their story because, well, you know, we went from Illidan, who lore-wise is a very strong enemy. I don't think they gave him, you know, full justice, but there was him, the Legion. These were things people understood. We had encountered the Legion a little bit, at least the remnants of them, and the vanilla experience. So Illidan was a pretty strong, you know, enemy. The Outlands, Druitar, they were all, not Druitar, Draenor, they were all pretty well-known places. Then we move on to the Lich King. Arthas is known, you know, he's a hell of a good villain, and people loved him as a villain. And that was the most successful expansion of World of Warcraft. And then you move to Deathwing, and he just sort of appeared, was like, oh hey, I'm gonna, you know, go blow up the world. And really, while he did have lots of lore, it was never particularly, like, it didn't really have the depth and complexity of something like Arthas or Illidan. And it really did just appear as War Dragon. Also, their in-game implementation of that villain was very poor. And I think most of the people I talk to agree with this. We were talking about it in my guild during the downtime of one of our raid nights. Everyone pretty much agrees that, you know, if they want, the people who do care about story pretty much agree that Deathwing was a shit villain, which he was. Even his raid was shit. It was ridiculous. We got through the Dragon Soul raid on normal mode. On the first day, we got through 3 or 4 of the bosses, which is absurd. That never happens to us. That should take weeks. Oh, fucking Deathwing. And then we move on from Deathwing to Pandaria, which it really seemed like it didn't have a lot of focus near the start. And I know that was a bit of their intent, but I think it perhaps led to a little bit of lacking in drive and sort of lacking in player involvement in the story. You know, you felt constantly like, oh shit, Arthas. And I know Ulduar did just sort of appear out of nowhere, sort of, but come on, you had the Storm Peaks, you had the Iron Dwarfs. They were very well, you know, covered in the questing experience. So yeah, stuff. Now, the next thing, the next thing is old content. They said that they are able to scale you down to do old content, so like old raids and stuff, but the reason they haven't done it yet is because they don't have a good reward scheme, and I would actually suggest that these are things I think that would be great for a separate server. You know, there's a lot of people who are longing that vanilla experience, they're longing for the Burning Crusade experience, or the Wrath experience. Well, why not give that to them? Because that's content that's really, it's being made, and people really, you know, like, if you're wanting that content, you're not going to get it in the current game. Unless they, you know, because you might get the raid itself, but you won't get the overall experience. So I think if they just have a vanilla server, a Burning Crusade server, I think people would be really interested in that. And maybe if it costs some extra resources, maybe make it an extra on top of the World of Warcraft subscription, or, you know, maybe make it a, you know, a £5 or $10 whatever buy-in or something. But I think having separate servers for stuff like that would be really, really, really cool. And I think a lot of other people do sort of agree with that. It would be nice, and it probably wouldn't cost them ginormous resources. They just need to make sure that, you know, bringing the older content into the most current version of the engine wouldn't break the game. So there could be some, well, let's just say it could be a nightmare for the QA team. So yeah, they also said that if they do it like in-game via toggle or something, just in your regular server, so you know, you toggle down to level 70 mode, that they would still allow for players to solo things by not toggling. And finally, they've announced that there is a 25% sale off the Cinder Cat, because, you know, a fake cat in a game is totally worth 1 month subscription fee. Really is, you guys. Buy it. Not. Anyway, that's it for the show. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy, please hit that like and subscribe button, and with that, I'll see you later.